President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. I notice the counsel, Michael Canavas, is on his feet. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning to your honors, and good morning to everyone in and around the courtroom. As you may have noticed earlier this morning, I absented myself from the courtroom because I had to go see the client, Mr. Ingsuri, who is down in the holding cell. And in your decision, E254/3, you indicated that the defense should seek medical attention if concerned about Mr. Ingsuri's health, having affirmed your decisions of the 7th and 12th December 2012, your orders prohibiting us from recording our observations, audio recording our observations when speaking with the doctors, or even filing our observations with the court. I went down to see Mr. Ingsuri, and I spoke to the doctor. It would presume from your decision that one has to consult at least with the doctors in order to figure out whether medical attention is necessary. So, having spoken with the doctor, it would appear that while Mr. Ingsuri's vital signs are okay, everything else is not okay, in a sense that he's not really able to follow the proceedings. When I pressed the doctor whether he could give an opinion, he indicated that that's not his job. And he's not in a position, in other words, to make the determination, but that's what all the other doctors are putting down, that if the vital signs are okay, then he can follow the proceedings. But, and this was through translation, words to the effect, it's Insuri's problem if he can't follow the proceedings. He's there to check the health. I spoke with Mr. Ingsuri and asked whether he wished to waive his presence, because obviously it is our opinion that he's incapable of following the proceedings. He had indicated that he does not mind being down there, but I interpret that to mean that he's acquiescing to us going forward, because he did not ask that the proceedings be stopped until he feels better. So in other words, he has effectively given his waiver for these particular proceedings. But we are concerned, and I must register my objection to this notion that somehow, if the vital signs are okay, it can be interpreted that he's actually capable of following the proceedings. And if this doctor is not capable of making that determination, then they should have other doctors who are capable. It is also our concern that once we get the medical report in the morning, these doctors seem to think, contrary to what appears to be your instructions, that they are absolved from providing any new information to the trial chamber. Mr. Ingsuri was on oxygen. He could barely breathe. He definitely is extremely fatigued, and all he wants to do is sleep. And it's not out of boredom. At least that's my non-medical opinion. So I register this, and I would suggest that the trial chamber make inquiries so that if we're going to have doctors down there, then, and if the doctors are not capable of making a determination as to Mr. Ingsuri being capable of following the proceedings, then their report that the vital signs are okay and that they can follow the proceedings is a sham. And that should not be the basis in determining whether he's capable of following the proceedings on any particular day. And with that, Your Honors, I apologize for taking the time from the prosecution's presentation, but effectively, Mr. Ingsari has waived his presence, although he does not mind being down there. And in fact, because of the medical attention, the doctors are there at the moment, we would suggest that he remain there since he's on oxygen and resting. Thank you.
President, the prosecution, if you have any comments to make regarding the remark made by counsel for Ingsari on his client's health, you may proceed.
Mr. President, can I only reiterate the position of the OCP that has always been taken and indeed referred to in court on previous occasions, which is we obviously support the need for sufficient information to be provided to the trial chamber in this regard. I don't think I can say very much more. Thank you.
Thank you. If you have anything else to go ahead.
Thank you. Presentation is now moved to the 17th of April 1975. And I'd like to start, please, by making reference to document E3/118, English ERN 001666972. And what I'm reading at this stage is the first, or one of the first broadcasts on the morning of the 17th of April by the voice of the National United Front of Cambodia. So first of all, this is a broadcast in the early hours of the 17th of April. The text of the report, it's the second red box on the English page, states as follows. Latest reports from the Phnom Penh front say that in the morning of the 17th of April at 0600 hours, our forces on the front line of all fronts moved into Phnom Penh. From the north, we reached Wat Phnom. From the west, we reached and occupied the Khmer Soviet Technical University. From the south, we reached Chamkamorn Presidential Palace. And from the east, we liberated and entirely controlled Choi Chong Va. The enemy forces are falling in successive chunks. They cannot withstand our attacks, and on the 17th of April at 0700, we are moving in on the Information Ministry, the Defence Ministry, and the General Staff Headquarters at Chamkamorn. Within the same document, E3/118, English ERN 001666973. There are the texts of broadcasts, again in the early hours of the 17th of April, and they're to do with patriarchs from religious orders making appeals for peace. The first was broadcast to do with the Mahanikai religious order and states as follows. I, the Supreme Patriarch of the Mahanikai religious order, would like to appeal to fighters on both sides, Khmer Republic and Khmer of the other side, to stop shootings as of now. And I invite the commanders of the other side to attend a meeting with the Supreme Committee of the Khmer Republic at the General Staff on the 17th of April 1975 at 1100 hours in order to find peace for all Cambodian people from now on. And then 2 minutes after that broadcast, there was this broadcast with this text. I, the Supreme Patriarch of the Tamayut religious order, would like to appeal to fighters on both sides to stop the bloodshed between Cambodians as of now. We're still within the FIBIS reports, still on the morning of the 17th. English ERN 001-66976. There is, though, a Khmer translation for this entry, and the Khmer ERN is 00846-158. This is a broadcast by the Voice of the NUFC of Phnom Penh, and the broadcast is in these terms. Special news. We have completely liberated Phnom Penh. In the morning of the 17th of April 1975 at 09:30, we completely liberated Phnom Penh. After successive assaults on Phnom Penh from all directions, our popular armed forces are controlling and have occupied all important enemy positions in Phnom Penh. Still within the same document, English ERN 001-66974. No translations in Khmer or French. FIBIS report, again for the 17th of April, states as follows, this broadcast. In view of the appeal by the patriarchs of the two religious orders, in view of the absence of the Supreme Committee, and in view of the absence of the government of the Khmer Republic, in order to stop the bloodshed between Cambodians, I, General May Sichan, Chairman and Representative of the Cambodian National Armed Forces General Staff, have decided to order the three armed services, ground, air and navy forces, to stop shooting and fighting from now on, and invite the representative of the other side to come to Phnom Penh and other provincial capitals which are open to you. So that then was, in effect, the general from the Khmer Republic Armed Forces making an invitation to representatives of the Khmer Rouge to come to a meeting. On the same page, there was an announcement within 7 minutes of that broadcast taking place. There was an announcement by an unnamed Cambodian People's National Liberation Armed Forces representative. And this was the text of that broadcast. I hereby inform the contemptible, traitorous Lon Nol clique and all its commanders that we are not coming here for negotiations. We are entering the capital through force of arms. On the same page, there was another broadcast about 1 hour and 5 minutes later, and this was a broadcast on the Phnom Penh domestic service. And in this broadcast, an unidentified announcer stated in respect to the Khmer Republic Army, stated this: the army has agreed to lay down its weapons and surrender to the CPNLAF, which has victoriously entered Phnom Penh. Can I next please move to document E3/2864. This starts on Khmer ERN 12054, French 00391422, and English 007103111. Now, this document was a communique sent through Bangkok, through the French press agency, reporting the observations of a French journalist called Jean-Jacques Cazot. He's already been mentioned by me in the context of previous FIBIS reports. And he, in effect, provides in this communique regular information as to what was happening not only on the 17th of April, but also in the days that followed. So I'm reading his report. Thursday the 17th of April, 07:30 a.m. The white flag is hoisted at the Choi Chung Va Navy Base, located across from the downtown area on the peninsula, formed by the Mekong and Tonle Sap rivers. The first Khmer Rouge elements arrived from the north of the city in the vicinity of the French embassy. 08:30 a.m. On the south side of downtown, partisans, having penetrated the area for several days, disarmed the first Republican troops, who surrender without offering any resistance. 09:20 a.m. The son of the former Minister of the Interior, Hem Ket Dara, age 29, summons the French journalists to the Ministry of Information. Hem Ket Dara affirms that he, open quote, took the city with approximately 200 members of the national movement, MONATIO. The movement is totally unknown. Now, Mr. President and Your Honours, can I indicate at this stage that you're going to be seeing later today some video footage, and it's video footage that has become reasonably well known of a man on the streets of Phnom Penh brandishing a pistol in his hand and waving it around his head. You'll see that on some video clip that's coming up. It had commonly been thought that he was a member of the Khmer Rouge. It seems to transpire that he isn't, and that the man shown waving the pistol, if I can call him Pistol Man, is in fact this man, Hem Ket Dara, the son of a Minister of the Interior in the Khmer Republic government, and that he, in effect, was falsely stating to journalists that he had taken over the city with his men. Can I move on with the text of the document? 10 a.m. Tanks positioned in the front of Wat Phnom and along Monivon Boulevard are adorned with a white flag and almond flowers. They are swamped by Dara's partisans, and fraternising begins. Again, that is an incident that will be shown on some video footage. To carry on with the document. The population gives free rein to its joy and warmly welcomes the liberators. Marches start to form throughout the city. The festive atmosphere continues until shortly before noon. Still on the same page in Khmer, same page in French, English ERN 007103112. We've now moved to 2 p.m, still on Jean-Jacques Cazot's report. 2 p.m. The mood in the city has completely changed. The Khmer Rouge, who were eclipsed for a short while, have replaced the MONATIO partisans and have set about systematically taking over the city street by street. Long columns of the Khmer People's National Liberation Armed Forces, soldiers, are arriving from the north along National Road 5. and are very heavily armed. Others pour in from the east, ferried by vessels from the National Navy from the opposite bank of the river. 3 p.m. Telex and telephone lines are down. The first Republican government officials arrive at the Ministry of Information in order to surrender. The morning's hero, Hem Kek Dara, stays in the background. 3:30 p.m. The entire northern part of the city is now surrounded, and the people in the area have received orders to leave Phnom Penh. 4:30 p.m. The Prime Minister, Mr. Lom Boret, and you'll be hearing more of him later, also the last remaining official of the Republican regime, surrenders to the authorities who were waiting for him at the Ministry of Information. There's then this sentence: Prince Sirik Matak is offered asylum at the French embassy. Again, Mr. President, Your Honours, you'll be receiving documents in relation to Sirik Matak. His stay at the French embassy was temporary, and you'll be reading documents about him leaving the French embassy. Continuing with this document. 5 p.m. KPN LAF soldiers order the evacuation of Phnom Hotel within half an hour. 5:45 p.m. Foreigners, journalists, UN and Red Cross representatives hastily leave the Phnom Hotel and take refuge at the embassy. That's a reference to the French embassy. And then pages where there are now no Khmer translations, but the English is 007 10313 and the French is 0039 1423. We're still within Jean-Jacques Cazot's report. It's just later in the day. 6 p.m. The barriers at the embassy are about to be forced. The gates are closed. Cambodians climb over the fence, jump onto the barbed wire, and throw their suitcases and children over the walls. There is utter chaos. The embassy gardens are overrun by the crowd. Refugees leave Phnom Penh on foot and head north. They walk past the embassy in single file. KPN LAF soldiers with kramas on their heads and around the neck, armed with bazookas and AK-47s, arrive from the north of the city. The evacuees walk on the right-hand side of the boulevards, while the Khmer Rouge walk on the opposite side. Nobody says a word. There is complete silence all around the city. And at 8 p.m, 1,200 people, having taken refuge inside the embassy, half of them are Khmer of Chinese or Vietnamese origin. At this juncture, can I please ask the AV unit to play video number 2. This was taken from a documentary, Pol Pot, The Killing Embrace. It is an extract of 2 minutes, 26 seconds. The source document is D108/32.2R, item 988. Mr. President, can I indicate that I will be circulating to all parties later today an index of all the videos of which I'm playing footage today. Can I also indicate that whereas the first video extract had sound commentary, I've listened to the sound commentaries for all other pieces apart from Tall Portrait. And I do not think it's fair for me to present these videos with sound. The journalists are interpreting events in their own way, and they are, some would say, putting a certain spin on events. I don't want to be accused of having done that, and for those reasons, these portions will all be played without any voice documentary. So please, AV unit, video number 2, Pol Pot, The Killing Embrace. Thank you.
President, AV unit, please play the video portion as requested by the co-prosecutor.
Thank you. Can I move next, please, to document E3/2687. Cambodia RN 00490992. French 00391430. This is the first of a series of telegrams to and from the French embassy in Phnom Penh. This is a telegram from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Paris to the French embassy in Phnom Penh, and it's to do with Sirik Matak. And as my previous entry had said, Sirik Matak had been asking for political, effectively, or asylum. And so this is on, as the subject says in a red box towards the middle of the page, right of asylum. And the text reads, as right of asylum is not recognised in international law, and due to the specific nature of your mission, we are unable to grant the requests of Sirik Matak and of Mr. Umbun Ho or any other person reporting at the embassy in the same circumstances. Please inform the interested parties that we are unable to offer them the protection they expect. It is now for them to consider whether it is in their interests to seek refuge elsewhere, and in any event to leave rapidly the premises of our embassy. Next, please, can I move to document E3/51. This combined document on the case file is a compilation of journalistic articles published in the Times newspaper in London. This extract from which I'm now going to read reports the observations of a British journalist, John Swain. And the first entry I'd like to read from is on Khmer, ERN 00644-702 through 703, French 0059-7831 through 32, and English 00003277. It's an extract dealing with 11 a.m. on the morning of the 17th of April. And the quote is as follows. Quote, 11 a.m. It now seems safe to wander around the central part of the town. The Khmer Rouge, who were firmly in control, seemed to be a friendly enough lot. And with some colleagues I headed for the Ministry of Information, where we had heard that there was a gathering of Khmer Rouge military leaders. A curious sight greeted us. Holding court on the grass outside the long colonial-style building was a young man in black with a handsome angular face. In impeccable French, he introduced himself as Hem Ket Dara, son of a former minister. Dara described himself as the commanding general of the nationalist movement, that he had liberated the city. Moving on one paragraph. This arrogant playboy could hardly be a revolutionary, and it was inconceivable that he fitted the tough mould of the Khmer Rouge movement. He gave orders all the time, telling the young black-clad soldiers around the building to move back and stay still. When they pushed forward again, he brandished a pistol in a Hollywood fashion that commanded only token respect. And then there's a quote from Hem Ket Dara within the same red box. I took Phnom Penh with only 300 men. We suffered no casualties, he boasted. Then, dismissing us with a wave of his pistol, he told us to listen to broadcast announcements. The city must be reorganised before you can send dispatches, he said. Both he and his soldiers struck a false note. They were too neat and too friendly by far to be genuine Khmer Rouge straight from the hills. And then earlier, the next red box on this the next page in Khmer, so 006444703, there is this quote: Mr. Dara and his merry band were presumably opportunists who had misjudged the true metal of the Khmer Rouge. At this stage, can I please ask the AV unit to play video number 3. This is an extract from a documentary called Cambodia Year 013. It is 1 minute 27 seconds long. It was extracted from D10/32.2R, item 1011. Thank you.
The President. AV assistant are now instructed to play this video clip as per the request by the prosecution. The President. Mr. Prosecutor, please hold on. I note the defense counsel for Mr. Kyew Sampon is on her feet. You may proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning to you, sir, and to the Chamber and the parties. Just one point. I would like, when the co-prosecutor shows these videos, if he could also indicate the minutes for these extracts, because then it would be much simpler for us to go back to the passages at a subsequent stage. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I'm perfectly happy to do that. There are records. Can I please suggest that the timings are put on the document that is going to be sent through to all parties later this afternoon? So it will identify what video this was extracted from and the times of the cutting in the video, so that everybody in court knows exactly which part of which video I'm playing. But I don't have all the cutting times here, but I can certainly provide them to all the parties later today. Still staying now on E3/51, so this is the reporting from John Swain in the Times. Khmer ERN 006444704, French 00597832, and English 00003277. 12:30 p.m, so afternoon. It was now the hottest time of the day, Hundreds of people were being subjected to a hideous death at the Preaket Malaya hospital. The doctors had not reported for work for 2 days, and there was no one to treat the 2,000 wounded. Within the same document, but moving to later in the afternoon, Khmer ERN 006 44709, French 0059 7835, English 0000 3278. At 3:30 p.m, a man of some authority ordered us released, and most of our belongings were returned. The insurgents kept certain items. And he says, we drove straight to the Ministry of Information, where we understood there was to be a news conference. 4 p.m. Here was a very different scene from the morning. Colourful Mr. Dara was there, but he was no longer in charge. He was unarmed and a semi-prisoner. The cocky expression had vanished from his face. He looked tired and uneasy. There were 50 prisoners lined up in front of the building. They included Lon Non, Marshal Lon Nol's younger brother, and one of the most corrupt, hated members of the old regime. There were several generals and Hu Hang Sin, director of the cabinet of Long Boret. But the Prime Minister was absent, although no one doubted he was still in the city. He had sworn he would stay to the end, although it meant certain death. And in the next red box on the Khmer page, now the leader talked to the prisoners. He told them there were only 7 arch-traitors, and that they were not to consider themselves captives, but as surrendered people. He pledged there would be no reprisals. Next, can I please move to document E3/2689, Khmer ERN 00490995, French 00391434, and English 004868884. It's a telegram. It's from Jean Dirac, French ambassador at the French embassy in Phnom Penh, to the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Paris. It's covering the 17th of April, and the text of the telegram reads as follows. Funk troops have tried on 3 occasions to enter the embassy to conduct searches. Be grateful, act immediately. Repeat immediately to ensure respect for neutrality. Numerous incidents of looting in the city. Tried to make contact with new authorities, but in vain. Very fearful for security of compatriots. Next, the document is E3/2688, another telegram This is a telegram covering again the 17th of April, and the subject of the telegram is the situation in Phnom Penh. The Khmer ERN is 00490993. And the text of the telegram reads as follows. So Phnom Penh, 2100 hours. By the end of the evening, soldiers of the National United Front of Kampuchea, FUNK, have combed through the main streets of the capital and through loudspeaker ordered residents of all nationalities to evacuate Phnom Penh immediately at a distance of 15 kilometres. They declared that the city risked being flattened by bombing. Widespread panic ensued. Approximately 1,000 people sought refuge in the embassy compound by climbing over the metal fence. And then in the next red box on the Khmer page, the page is one page on, so Khmer 00490994. It stated, soldiers have also entered our facility, Calumet Hospital, in 3 separate attempts to evacuate all staff and patients. Next document is E3/2696. This is a telegram sent from the French Embassy in Phnom Penh to the Ministry for Foreign Affairs in Paris. And it's including the text of a report that's being asked to be forwarded to the Le Monde newspaper. And the first extract is on Khmer 00491977. The people of Phnom Penh received an order to go outside the city limits, a measure to enable taking control of the capital and an attempt to solve the food problem, rice. Lastly, and mostly, intent revolutionise city, which was heart of the Republic. At the outset, very good conduct soldiers, very young peasants, with little knowledge of the big city, where they felt lost and ill at ease. Very few cadres, but obvious organisation and planning. The atmosphere changed in the afternoon with the decision of the evacuation. Recall that the population of Phnom Penh more than quadrupled during the war with an influx of refugees. The next extract is on the next Khmer page, namely 00491278. The French is 00391444. We're alone Thursday morning to go about 40 kilometres out of the city towards the northwest. Indescribable enthusiasm at the presence of the French. Long columns of soldiers with many US weapons heading for Phnom Penh. Units of women in black, passage through the liberated zones. The landscapes changed. And the next red box in Khmer on the same page. Returning, in other words, returning on the Thursday morning. Were held up a few hours before taken to the Ministry of Information, where Republican officials convened by radio broadcast. The atmosphere was relaxed, and it's reported that Long Boret had surrendered on his own and was well received. The final red box in the Khmer document records the end of the telegram, or the end of the report. Expecting imminent arrival, government leaders do not know when return Sihanouk. Q Sampon allegedly already arrived. Atmosphere tense on Friday morning in the deserted city. Next, please, can I return to E3/2684. There is no Khmer translation. The French ERN is 00391423. And I'm returning now back to Jean-Jacques Cazot's continuing chronology for these days. And it's for the 18th of April. So we're moving now to Friday, the 18th of April, 1975. And he, Jean-Jacques Cazot, reports this. The evacuees continue their silent march towards the north, carrying packages, bundles and suitcases. Heavy and light arms fire is heard all around the city. 9 a.m. The first accounts recorded concerned systematic plundering of houses by the Khmer Rouge soldiers from the countryside. The houses are all opened and cleaned out. The people are told to leave Phnom Penh. According to the same accounts, many houses are then set ablaze with incendiary grenades. 10 a.m. There's the first contact between the French consul Jean Dirac and a city committee. The consul wants the military authorities controlling the capital to realise that the embassy premises are inviolable. 1 p.m. The French doctors at the Calumet Hospital are ordered to vacate the surgery unit. And 1:30 p.m. After more than 3 hours of talks, the French embassy is now considered an international secure zone. However, the consul has undertaken to provide a list of all the people who have taken refuge at the embassy. He has also agreed that in the process, all Khmer nationals currently at the embassy are to leave its premises. The next document dealing with the 18th of April, I'm moving to document E3/2692. The first Khmer reference is 00490997. This is a telegram from the French consul at the French embassy in Phnom Penh to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Paris. And it's recording the situation in Phnom Penh at 10:30 a.m. on Friday the 18th of April 1975. The text of the telegram is as follows. The Funk group again appeared at the entrance to the embassy and they asked to enter our courtyard to start searching our vehicles, only just avoided an incident. Next, document number is E3/2693. The Khmer ERN is 00490998. This is a telegram still on the 18th of April, again from the French embassy in Phnom Penh to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Paris. And the subject of the telegram is the situation in Phnom Penh at 1400 hours on the 18th of April. The telegram states, I received at 12 noon, in the presence of my colleagues of the UNDP and UNICEF representatives, and of the various consuls present, an anonymous 3-person delegation from the city committee. The delegation stated that, firstly, the general evacuation of the city deemed to be necessary does not apply to embassies, and especially not to the French nationals. 2, they expressed their profound satisfaction with the French government recognition of Grunk, Funk and the National Liberation Army. 3, for security reasons, they explained the requirement to gather people together within the embassy compound, where they promised they would protect all French nationals, including teachers, medical staff and sick people of French nationality and international mission staff. 4, they clearly stated that they did not, in the near future, need the services either of our medical corps or of the teacher whose services we offered. 5, they expressed concern about whether the wounded in the Calumet Hospital included soldiers from the former regime. Following this pressing request, a general patients list will be provided to them. 6. They immediately went on to express their desire to visit Calumet and then our embassy. To this we answered with the promise to provide them within 3 days with the list of all people present in both places. Next document is E3/2694, another telegram from the French Embassy in Phnom Penh to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Paris. The first Khmer red box is on Khmer 00491363 through 164. This is a telegram of the 18th of April, and the subject of the telegram is political asylum. And the text of the telegram reads as follows. Following an ultimatum from the City Committee, I am compelled, in order to ensure the security of our compatriots, to include in a list of persons present at the embassy, first, Prince Sirik Matak and 2 of his officers. And then still within that box, barring express and immediate order from the department requesting me to grant political asylum, I will be compelled to turn these names in within 24 hours. The next document, E3/2697, we're still dealing with the 18th of April. In fact, I'm deciding for brevity's purposes not to include that document. Can I please move on to document number E3/2691? This is a telegram from the French Embassy in Phnom Penh to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Paris. It is dated the 18th of April. E3/269. And the text of this telegram reads, at Khmer 00490996. The situation in Phnom Penh on the 18th of April at 0800 hours. Exodus. 1 million people are fleeing. Patients leaving Calumet in their beds. I fear the worst for the embassy. The next document, I'm returning to E3/51. This is the compilation of extracts from the Times newspaper. The Khmer ERN 006444713, French 00597837, English 00003279. This is a journalistic article where the heading to the extract is "A Great Caravan of Human Misery." It's covering the events of Friday the 18th of April still. And the entry reads 0700, so 7 a.m. The Khmer Rouge Army is emptying the city and its hospitals, tipping out patients like garbage into the streets. Bandaged men and women hobble by the embassy. Wives push wounded soldier husbands on hospital beds on wheels. Some with serum drips still attached. In 5 years of war, this is the greatest caravan of human misery I have seen. The Khmer Rouge must know that few of the 20,000 wounded will survive. One can only conclude that they have no humanitarian instincts. The entire city is being emptied of its people. The old, the sick, the infirm, the hungry, the orphans, without exception. Can I ask the AV unit, please, to play an extract from video 10. This is an extract from Cambodia, year 015. It is 23 seconds long. It was extracted from D108/32.2R, and it was item number 0102. I will provide the exact clip timings in due course. So, video, please, number 10.
The President. Mr. Prosecutor, can you please repeat the document number and the EIN number, because it was not properly translated?
Certainly, Mr. President. This is a video that was entitled Cambodia, year 015. The D number is D108/32.2R, and within that file it is item 1012. But for the AV purposes again, video number 10, please.
The President. AV assistants are now instructed to play the portion of the clips as per the request by the prosecution.
I say the purpose of showing that clip was that the two people shown in beds, according to the makers of the documentary, are in hospital. Next, please, document E3/118, English ERN 001-66983, no Khmer or French translations. It's a FIBIS report. I read in English. It's as I say, a FIBIS report, and it's this quote. It's reporting journalism that's come via Bangkok through Hong Kong. The source said that the Red Khmer soldiers entered the French-run Calumet hospital and called on all the patients and doctors to leave within the hour. Still within that same document, English ERN 001-66984. The Calumet hospital, where a team of French doctors and surgeons had remained on duty. The soldiers reportedly undertook the evacuation of everyone, medical staff, patients, and the several dozen foreigners, mostly French, who had taken refuge there. Next document, Khmer ERN 0664009, French 00664007, English 00445203. This is a journalist article, Los Angeles Times. The date of the article was 8th of May 1975. It's covering events at this period. And the extract at Khmer 00664010. A French doctor said the Khmer Rouge ordered all the city's hospitals vacated, even of the very sick and dying. And, Mr. President, can I just ask for this short clip to be played at this stage? It is for AV purposes. No, sorry, forgive me, Mr. President, I played that. Mr. President, is this a convenient time to adjourn for lunch?
The President, thank you. The President, I hand over to Judge Cartwright. You may proceed.
Thank you, President. The President has asked me to note for the record the waiver given on behalf of Ieng Sari of his right to participate in the hearings and to note that he has, for the moment, remained in the holding cells. The President has also asked me to direct the treating doctors to provide an updated medical report by 1:15 today. I think that's all, President. Thank you.
The President. Thank you, Judge. The time is now convenient for the lunch adjournment. The Chamber will adjourn now and resume at 1:30. The Court is adjourned.